You ever get that, like, pit in your stomach feeling when you see yet another data breach notification?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, is it just me? Or does it feel like we get those every other week?
It is a lot. I think with everything going on these days with data privacy, it's definitely top of mind.
It's scary. And it makes you wonder, like, do we even have any control over our data anymore? Like, is this just the way it is now?
Well, the good news is no, that's not the only way. Especially with what we saw recently with the GM and TikTok situations. It's becoming more and more clear that that old way of handling data, the centralized way, it's just not working.
Okay, so let's break that down for a sec. What happened with those cases? Like GM and TikTok, why should we care?
So with GM, there were accusations that they were selling driver data, like really detailed stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
like where you're driving, your driving habits, even like what you listen to and watch in your car.
And they were just selling that.
Well, the accusation is that they were doing it without consent.
Ugh, not good.
And then with TikTok, there were those allegations that they were sharing data with foreign governments.
And what kind of data are we talking about here?
Potentially. I mean, it could be anything from what videos you watch to, get this, your actual keystrokes.
No way.
Right.
So it's not just like, oh, they're going to see what I posted today, but it's literally everything I'm doing.
Pretty much.
That is not a good feeling.
Yeah, and think about it. It's not just social media anymore. It's our cars, where we go, even what we type.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, think about how much data we're generating just in a normal day with our phones, our computers, all of it.
Right. It's massive. And right now, all that data, it's mostly held by companies in these huge databases.
Oh, so it's all centralized in one place.
Essentially.
And that just makes it way more vulnerable to hackers, right?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It's a gold mine for them. And not only that, it just opens the door for all kinds of misuse, which, often happens without us knowing or agreeing to.
That's a scary thought. So is there a better way? Like, what can we do about this?
Well, there's a lot of talk about this concept called decentralized identity.
Okay, I think I've heard of that, but I don't really understand how it works.
It's a pretty interesting idea. Basically, instead of those companies storing and managing our data, we do it ourselves.
So instead of like trusting Facebook or Google or whoever with all our info, it's like we take back control.
Exactly.
Huh. I kind of like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's about self-sovereignty. So you decide what data you share and who gets to see it.
So like, what, do I need to like buy a server and set it up in my basement or something?
No, not exactly. Think of it more like a digital safe deposit box.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So you have all your information in this secure space, and you get to decide who has the keys, so to speak.
I'm with you so far.
And then if someone wants access, they have to ask you for permission. You're in control.
That makes sense. But
Yeah.
okay, how do we actually get from here to there?
Yeah.
Like, how does this actually work in real life, not just in theory?
Well, there are platforms being built right now to make this happen. Like, for example, you have ArcBlock's DID spaces.
Okay, deed spaces, what is that?
That's the platform, yeah. Like, they're building the actual infrastructure to make this decentralized identity thing a reality.
So the platform is called DDI spaces.
Yes.
And the concept itself is decentralized identity.
Great.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
Yeah.
So what is DDI spaces exactly?
In the simplest terms, it's like this secure container. And it's where you keep all your data, everything, your name, your contact info, social media stuff, health records, whatever you have.
And it's secure. Like, how does that work?
It uses blockchain technology.
Oh, okay, like a tamper-proof ledger or whatever.
Exactly. So it keeps track of who has access to your data and makes sure nobody can mess with it.
Got it. Okay, so I have my data in this secure DDI spaces container, so then what?
Well, let's say you want to use a new app.
Yeah.
And that app, they need some of your data to work,
Right.
but they don't need all of it. Like right now, you pretty much have to give them everything.
Yeah, it's like an all or nothing kind of thing. I hate that.
Right. But with DID spaces, you can choose. You can give them access to just the specific pieces of information they need.
So like, let's say it's a fitness app.
Yeah.
And they want my location data to track my runs.
Yeah.
But I don't want them sharing that data with advertisers.
Exactly.
Could I, like, block that with DID spaces?
You could. You could choose to only share, say, your workout data with the app, but keep your location data private.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all about setting your own boundaries.
Okay. So it's not just about, like, keeping my data safe, but it's also about me actually making the decisions, right?
Yes. You're in control. You decide what you share with whom, and you can even revoke access anytime.
Right. No more blindly clicking agree on those terms of service, huh?
Exactly.
Okay. I like where this is going. But this all still seems a little theoretical, Like, are there any real-life examples of how this DID spaces thing is actually being used out in the world?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely real-world examples. Like, you know how everyone is always complaining about social media?
Always.
Well, imagine a decentralized social media platform where you own your data, and the algorithm doesn't decide what you see.
Okay, so no more echo chambers
Exactly.
and no more filter bubbles.
Yep. You control your data.
And you choose who sees it.
And you could even potentially get compensated for it.
What? Like, I could get paid for my data.
Yeah, you could choose to share it directly with researchers or advertisers if you wanted to.
Okay, so instead of Facebook making all the money off my data, I could actually benefit from it myself.
Right?
Wow, that's a game changer.
Right.
What other examples are there?
Well, another exciting one is secure messaging. Imagine a world where you and the recipient are the only ones who can read your messages.
What, not even the messaging app itself?
Nope. End-to-end encryption.
So like, finally, no more worrying about my private messages being scanned or leaked. This is starting to paint a really interesting picture of the future. But I gotta ask, if this technology is so revolutionary, why isn't everyone using it already?
Yeah, good question.
Like, what are the challenges?
Well, like any new technology, DID bases does face some hurdles. I mean, the biggest one is probably user adoption.
What do you mean?
Like, people are just used to the current system,
Even though it's kind of broken,
even though it has its issues.
right?
So getting everyone comfortable with this new way of managing data, well, takes time.
It's like a whole new way of thinking, right?
And a lot of education, for sure,
Yeah.
about the benefits and all that.
Okay, so education is key.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the tech side of things? Are there challenges there too?
Yeah, for sure. One of the big ones is building a whole ecosystem around it. We need developers to actually build applications that use DID spaces.
Right, so it's not just enough to have the platform. You need the apps and services that actually use it.
Exactly. And that requires, giving developers the right tools and resources and encouraging them to build on DD spaces.
So it's kind of a chicken and egg situation, right? Like, you need users to attract developers, but you need developers to build the cool stuff that attracts users.
Yeah. And that's something the whole industry is working on right now.
Interesting. So we're really at the beginning of something big here.
I think so, yeah.
It's kind of like the early days of the internet itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of potential, but still a lot of work to be done.
A lot of potential, yeah.
It's exciting, though.
It is, for sure. And it's important, too.
It is, absolutely. And it makes you think, like, what if we could actually build a better internet? One that's more fair, more secure, one where we have actual control over our own data.
It's
It
possible.
feels like that's what DD Spaces is all about.
It is. And I think that's something worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like having my own personal data vault built on blockchain. That sounds pretty secure.
It is. And the beauty of it is you have so much control over what you share. Like, you can give specific apps or services access to certain pieces of your data, but you don't have to expose everything.
So it's not like take it or leave it like it is now.
Right. Exactly.
So let's say I want to use a fitness app, but I don't want them to like share my location data with advertisers.
Okay.
Could I do that with date spaces?
Exactly. You could choose to share only your workout data with the app, and your location data would stay private.
Interesting. So it's more than just security then, right? It's about me being in charge of my own data.
Precisely. You're in control. No more blindly clicking agree on those terms and conditions that nobody reads anyway.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
You get to decide what data you share, who you share it with, and you can revoke access at any time.
That level of control sounds amazing. But I have to admit, I'm still having trouble picturing how this all works in practice. Are there any real-world examples of how DD Spaces is being used today?
Absolutely. We're starting to see some really exciting applications. For instance, imagine a decentralized social media platform where you own your data and the algorithm doesn't control what you see.
Wait, so no more filter bubbles
Exactly.
or echo chambers. That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And because you control your data, you could choose to share it with researchers or advertisers directly
Interesting.
and potentially even get compensated for it.
Hold on. So instead of like Facebook making all the money off of my data, I could actually get something back.
Exactly. You could.
That changes everything. What other use cases are out there?
Another really promising area is secure messaging. Imagine end-to-end encryption, where only you and the recipient can access your conversations. not even the messaging provider.
So no more worries about my private messages being scanned or leaked.
Right. And it extends to other areas too, like healthcare. You could have a secure digital space to manage your medical records and then choose which doctors or researchers have access to certain information.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this could be. But I'm curious, if this technology is so revolutionary, why isn't everyone using it already? Like, what are the challenges holding it back?
Well, like any new technology, DidSpaces does face some hurdles. User adoption is a big one.
Meaning people just aren't using it yet.
Well, people are used to the current system, even if it's flawed.
Right, out of habit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So getting them comfortable with a new way of managing data takes time and education.
So it's about educating people on the benefits and also making the technology easy to use.
Absolutely. We need user-friendly interfaces, easy-to-use wallets that make bid spaces accessible to everyone, not just the tech-savvy.
Right, can't be like super complicated to use.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What about from a technical standpoint? Are there challenges there too?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the big ones is building a really robust ecosystem. We need more developers creating applications on top of DidSpaces.
So it's not just about the platform itself, but also the apps and services that use it.
Exactly. And that means providing developers with the right tools, the resources they need, and incentivizing them to build on DidSpaces.
It's kind of a chicken and egg situation,
Yeah.
right? You need users to attract developers, but you need developers to build the cool stuff that attracts users.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cycle, that's for sure. But I think we're starting to see things move in the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there are organizations and companies out there that are really stepping up to support this whole DidSpaces development.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, there are grants, open source collaboration, all that stuff to help move things along.
That's awesome. So it seems like things are starting to fall into place, you know? But I think it's important to take a step back for a minute and think about the bigger picture here.
Yeah, I agree.
This technology, it has the potential to be really disruptive, right?
Mhm.
Like in a good way, but still. What are some of the things we need to consider, like the broader implications for society?
Well, I think it's crucial to remember that we can't just focus on the how of all this. We also need to think about the why and the potential impact on society as a whole.
Right, like are we sure that DidSpaces will be used ethically?
Mm.
And will it benefit everyone?
Exactly. I mean, for example, we need to make sure that this doesn't just end up worsening existing inequalities. Like, not everyone has the same access to technology or digital literacy.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that this new system is inclusive and that it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
So it's about responsible innovation,
Mm.
not just innovation for its own sake.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any other potential downsides we should be aware of? Like, I don't know, could this technology be misused somehow?
Well, yeah, that's definitely a concern. Like any tool, DidSpaces could be used for good or for bad.
Right.
So we need to educate users about the importance of security, being responsible about data sharing, being aware of potential scams or phishing attempts, all that stuff.
So it's kind of like giving someone the keys to a powerful car. You want to make sure they know how to drive it responsibly.
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
What about like data silos? I've heard people talking about that. Like if everyone has their own personal data vault, will that make it harder to share data for things like research or other beneficial purposes?
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. It's a balance, right?
Right.
We want to empower individuals to have control over their data, but we also need to think about the implications for society as a whole.
Right. It's tricky.
It's a complex issue.
No easy answers.
Definitely not. But personally, I do believe that the potential benefits of DidSpaces outweigh the risks.
I think so too.
It's about shifting that balance of power back towards individuals.
Yeah. Giving people more control over their digital lives
That's what it's all about.
and hopefully creating a more equitable internet along the way.
Right. A more trustworthy internet.
Well, this has been a really fascinating conversation. We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From the technical details of DidSpaces to the potential societal impact and everything in between.
It's an exciting space to watch, for sure.
It really is. So to all our listeners out there, if you're as intrigued by all this as we are, we encourage you to check out the links in the show notes. There's a ton of great information out there about DidSpaces and decentralized identity. And most importantly, just start thinking about it. How would you want to control your own data? What kind of digital future do you want to see? Because with DidSpaces, the power is really in your hands.
Well said. Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
It's been a pleasure. And to all our listeners, until next time, Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.